So I guess, Shannon, it's time to start, right?
Okay, let's start.
I
So,
mean, today, as our community shows, we're going to talk about active and passive liveness detection, and we will discuss liveness um, as it is, like the state of liveness, so to say, and talk a bit about the history, right? And um, also talk about how active and passive liveness detection mechanisms changed in the last several years, and um, try to understand what solutions does liveness detection brings outside the Humanode use case. So we can talk about Humanode, but liveness detection is a broader term. So yeah, it brings a lot of possibilities in other markets and fields as well.
definitely. So, let me throw this out in the beginning. Although this might be more towards the core of the discussion, when you talk about active liveness detection versus passive liveness detection, I mean, the common simple differentiator is that, in passive liveness detection, you basically sit before the camera and have your biometrics scanned. Whereas in active, you have to, let's say, jump up and down or smile or twitch or basically move to prove you're alive. And um, generally speaking, the general consensus seems to be that um, passive liveness detection might be stronger than active liveness detection. Of course, there's a camp that says no, active liveness detection is the only way to go. Um, when we're talking about active versus passive here, are we talking about the same thing here, or are we going a step deeper?
Um, talking about passive and active liveness detection, I would broaden it by saying that this is like two sides of the same term. Like um, the security of liveness detection, like liveness detection is a mechanism, right? That is used to understand whether a human being is alive or not in front of some sensor. It can be a camera, it can be an infrared, or some kind of other object to gather biometric data. So basically, the passiveness and activeness of liveness detection mechanism depends on how much you demand from the user, right? So basically, passive liveness detection just goes on, a background. You're just interacting with the service, and it quickly just checks your passive liveness detection, or the like interface that you're interacting with can ask you to do stuff like smile or turn your hand around, or um, the more complicated the interaction is, and the more the neural network that stands behind this learned about the users, the better it gets, and the higher it is to kind of spoof an identity, because um, the interaction session is bigger, and there's like a lot of data that is being calculated. So yeah, this is like liveness detection, and its passive and active side, right? Um, but to talk about liveness detection, uh, we gotta go to the um, roots and talk about its history just a little bit. Uh, so
Okay,
so um,
enlighten me.
Shannon, you know all that. Come on. So like in biometrics, liveness detection, it's computer's ability to determine that it is interfacing with a like physically present human being, and not an some inanimate spoof artifact or uh, injected video or data of some kind. And basically, in biometrics, like artifact is a thing that tries to simulate a person, like imitate him to try and create an identity that does not exist. So um, the history of Linus begins like an anti-history of Turing's test, right? So in like with Alan Turing in 1950s, he developed the famous Turing test, and um, like it exhibits the computer's ability to create human-like behavior. It calculates it, and liveness detection is anti-Turing test. Basically, it is a AI that determines if a computer is interacting with a live human being. So it's like an anti-Turing test, basically. And when we're talking about liveness detection as a modern phenomena, because some liveness detection mechanisms were used from the ancient, Greece or Babylon by using other techniques, but we're talking about digital ones. So, um, like there's like the godmother of all liveness, and her name is Dorothy Denning. She's also a part of the National Cybersecurity Hall of Fame in the US. And basically, the term liveness detection was coined by her in beginning of this millennia in 2001, right? And her works on infrared and non like deterministic ways of liveness detection has changed a lot. Uh, how modern biometric companies perceive trying to verify humanity through, you know, a computer vision, basically. Yeah, that's how it all began, Shannon.
Yeah, I remember Dorothy Denning's words were something like, "A good biometric system should not depend on security." And uh, what was the other one? Biometric prints need not to be kept secret, but the validation process must check for liveness of the readings.
Yes. So basically, um, it is interesting to talk about different approaches, right? Because we have two main types, uh, which are deterministic, and the other one is basically based on AI. The first one is pretty simple. You got some correlation of data on the images that you're processing, and basically you're just uh, calculating pixels and comparing stuff. That's it. But this is like to biometric technology before 2013, and it tried to combine like hundreds and thousands of deterministic approaches to understand whether like it's the same human being, or that he has the same shape of his face and stuff like this. And also it was very good for fingerprints, well, because fingerprints have different patterns, but they consist of the same like things. So basically in 2014, like with the advent of AI technology, and it's kind of spread throughout the world, um, a thing called like neural network for computer vision was born. And uh, first use cases on neural networks trying to define whether you're a human being or not was um, deployed. And basically they gave completely different results. At the beginning they were very inaccurate, and some deterministic approaches were much like of a better quality. But with time, as they've learned a lot, they became more and more precise with their way to determine whether a human being is alive or not. And uh, one of our major partners and friends, FaceTag, is only like improving with time. I mean, making huge precision leaps every single year, and quality and quantity wise. So, in 2017, this probably wouldn't be possible, like on a large scale. Like you will be able to verify uh, the existence of 10 people and be sure about it. Not more than that. But the quantity of liveness detection done they grows daily, and well, quality of it as well.
And, obviously, things have improved over the past couple of years very rapidly. Um, and just even doing a quick search of various articles concerning liveness detection, um, you'll have articles, let's say the year 2020, and um, one article will say that, oh, active liveness detection is the only way to go, and the other one will say, oh no, passive liveness detection is the only way to go because there are security gaps, and it's uh, hard to actually tell. The anti-spoofing is too difficult. But then, you know, each year, the articles that talk about liveness detection get more detailed. Um, the technology is advancing at an amazing rate, and the modalities that they use keep changing daily. I mean, what is it? It's like probably looking at the systems from 3 years ago, they probably can't be compared to the systems that are coming out now. It's, I mean, of course, with AI, but everything is moving forward in leaps and bounds.
So to make the approach like the combination of active and liveness detection in biometric authentication is key. Basically, you're going through passive liveness detection through interaction with the camera, through taking a photo, and then you're passing a very detailed active liveness detection session. It can go from like 3 seconds to 5 seconds, and well, it can be already be scaled to a very large amount of people only with that. And I mean, if you're increasing the amount of session and the amount of points of interaction the neural network learns about um, the user, then basically the amount of um, people that this can be spread to is becomes much bigger because of that as well, because you can be more sure and more accurate about the stuff that you're trying to determine.
I would certainly never disagree with the fact that when we have more data, we can build more like effective neural networks. But uh, in my point of view, it was never about like active or passive is better because, well, in fact, the things that we started to check by metrics that eventually led to accuracy from 1% errors to like 100,000% errors are like completely other effects that are in many modules that analyze what is happening during the video session, no matter you move your head a lot or just as you do right now in registering a Humanode. The thing is that we started to capture liveness data, which is data about are you a real person or not. It doesn't even take into account your shape, of course, but it takes all the 3D environment using absolutely new types of computer vision. And that is actually what also makes the session secure, because you have not only to present somebody's face, which you can model in a 3D program and then put it on the screen and then turn the head with this 3D face, which was taken out of the even passport photo. What you do now is you have to have that liveness data during the session, which is then completely deleted, and you can't replay that attack. This is what also became very important in increasing the accuracy and anti-spoofing capabilities.
You're talking about liveness detection. I know this is a very, very newbie question. It's something that I've kind of always wondered about. I mean, people's, faces can change. Let's say I'm back in Japan now. I go on an eating binge. I gain 30 kilograms in 1 month. My face becomes like a pumpkin. Well, would I be able to pass a liveness detection based on my old data, or would I be considered to be a different human being?
Well, you definitely have a problem, pal. But biometrics is not your biggest problem. I mean, no. The shape of the face, of the bottom, it's calculated a bit differently, and the shape of the inner upper part, the bones, it tries to look through. If you look at the biometric templates that basically come out of the original picture, you would say that most of the modules utilized by neural networks are trying to simulate the bone structure and some muscles looking through beards and skin. How they do this? Well, they trained to simulate bone and muscle structure, so just looking at millions of faces of other people. So it's like if you're fat and basically chubby and your face is more oval, it's just the same shape, and the amount of shapes that you can see on the upper part of our skull is much bigger and much different. Nose, ears, eyes is, and like just the jaw even. So
Oh, well, that's good to know. Now I can go
but
on my
if you get like 100 kilos on top of you, well, nothing's helping you, mate. You gotta lose it.
Well, if we talk about matching, yeah, probably twice to check while gaining a lot of weight, at least like once a year to if you're going on a hardcore increase or decrease. But in most cases, like if you're doing it at least once a few years, it will find you.
But I mean, if did you just like if you change your face changed like very dramatically in like a small period of time, then yes, it would be hard. But if it was a gradual change, basically, uh, you would see you changing and log its change.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, but it's not about liveness detection like at all. I'd say let's get back to discussing the.
It's like logic is pretty simple. The more like it's like you in real life, the more you look at a person and understand that he's alive, the better you do it with time, right? If you know who the person is. Same goes for liveness detection. The more it watches you, the more it knows you, the better it understands whether you're alive or not, or whether it is you or not.
Yep. So, for those of us who grew up on various movies, and especially action movies or spy movies, you see the CIA or the KGB would go out and, pick up a random street camera and be able to identify a person. And you think, well, okay, that's possible because they have a humongous database, central database of just that, of all the faces of the world. But it's probably not that realistic in reality. But we're talking about you're, building a network of well, of millions of people here, right? I mean, obviously the type of data um, is very different, but is there would you say what is the main difference between just capturing the face, let's say some you know just photo data of people and then capturing the images of people? Is there any correlation between the two types of data collection? I know it's a
Can
random
you
question.
can you define the types once again? So you're talking about ordinate pictures, and the second one is what again?
Well, let's say if you have a humongous database of of photos of people, is there any way to convert this into data that could be used in a liveness detection scenario?
Well, there's not a lot of in it actually.
It it really depends on what type of data there is, because well, you can train if there's like masks, photographs of masked people trying to spoof something, right? Or something else, because you have to train the model to kind of understand what is like what is like an artifact, not a person. So yeah, there's like big value in it. It's actually called data sets. You use data sets of some uh, basically some data that has some proper characteristics, like the camera is held 30 centimeters away from somebody's face, or this face is centered on this part of the picture, or something else. And yeah, you feed that into the neural network to make it stronger.
Out of curiosity, I know this is another bizarre question, but let's say I'm a university student, uh, wanted to earn a couple quick bucks and get my face scanned for dataset providers. And of course, we train the neural network later on. I say, oh, I want to become a Humanode and try to do a liveness detection. And will the system say, I recognize that face. Sorry, you can't be registered. Or would it just treat it as, okay, same data? Or would that data not even be considered in the process?
Well, that data is for training only. The database of faces is something else entirely. Like it was used for training, right? And then you have just the engine of the neural network, and well, you can create a database of biometric templates for any users. Maybe this AI will be used in different like services, and this person can be like applying to different services, having two accounts here and there. I mean, it's possible.
Okay, well, enough of my silly questions. Back to the main topic. What do you see? Where do you see the future of liveness detection heading?
I feel like huge leaps in precision, becoming even bigger. And I mean, there is like this ceiling uh, of the amount of people we can spread it to be sure that we make don't make we were not making a lot of mistakes, right? In 2021, it was one in like 12.5 million people, or like once in 12.5 million attempts, basically, to blindness detection yourself. And well, for um, like a blockchain project that is trying to scale for 2,000 nodes, that is sufficient. But For a service, like imagine trying to create a liveness detection service for, I don't know, Reddit, for example. With the amount of active users there, oh my god, it's like you're gonna have a lot of spoofed identities still, because this is still neural networks. They make mistakes, even if though the uh, percentage is very low of that, happening. And you just won't be able to scale it. And what I want to see is to see such precision of lines detection, and not a very considerable time, uh, you know taken away from user, basically. And to be able to scale to like large, even centralized services, it would be very cool. It will totally change the way organizations and people interact with one another, pretty much everywhere, because you can be sure that this list in front of you is real people and not something else.
Well, that is true, and a lot of services out there would definitely be interested in using a uh, a model that would allow their users to uh, basically not need any passwords but their face. And of course, the users, if their data is protected, would and their biometric identities are protected, would most likely want to use that too.
The thing that Liveness made for us, uh, it became possible to have a lot of photos on the internet of yourself, right? And despite that, the fact that we have all that the software that can create a 3D picture out of your photo, well, the liveness detection algorithms, they don't let those things go through. Looking at the video and measuring your face in like 3D real-time environment, understanding that, yeah, there are real like walls and objects around you, it's not something else. And this is actually what gave us security at the same time, because security doesn't depend on whether it's a match of the face or not. It also depends on whether it's a real session or not. Uh, that's what really changed and gave the biometrics a real security trait, because before that it wasn't that secure like at all.
Shen,
Mhm.
do you think that Rafa is in the mood to talk about the encrypted line detection that he's been
Ac-
working for a long time now?
Actually, that was what I was thinking about. I was looking at his little picture here and wondering if he was willing to open up here. Rafa, how are you doing today?
Hello, everyone. I'm glad to be here. Actually, it's more what I'm learning today than what I can say, because despite the fact I'm in the research group about the biometric authentication, the topic about neural network, it's not my field of expertise. But in any case, I have been researching how to combine these techniques with the encryption scheme we have. So I can say that all you have said until now, it's about, we can say that about a centralized entity that wants to check whether a person is alive or not. But in our case, we have to do it in a decentralized environment. And this, of course, comes with several differences. Particularly, we are thinking about using a technique that is called zero knowledge proof to manage the liveness detection. How it's this work? Well, the liveness detection will run in the nodes of the user. So again, like in the case of the authentication, the image don't never leaves the device of the user. So you can be safe that your image and the photo or a video that is taken in order to pass the liveness detection doesn't go anywhere. But we need somehow to keep it secure, to have a way to demonstrate that the user actually runs the software correctly. And that's where zero knowledge proof came to our helps. The idea is that in every layer of the neural network, we are going to add some calculations. So the neural network will keep in its own way, but we are only like adding an extra layer over the code of the neural network with some cryptographic and mathematical calculation. And so the user can prove that he's doing the calculation correctly. And that way, we can be sure that the liveness detection process will run correctly, and the output is actually the real output of the liveness detection. So that's what I can say so far. But if there is any question about this topic, I'll be glad to answer. And I hope that this explanation is clear. I don't know.
Looks like we have a question here. Since we're past the halfway mark, we might as well open this for a couple questions. And let's see. Please go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, I try start Node for maybe 2 months, but it's always I have problem, but what I am not like experienced in start Node, but I try support the project with I can start some Node and I understand how I can this work, but this sorry, but I cannot it's like not working, for me. Yeah.
Are you having problems with the facial recognition part or other
No,
portion?
no. I have only this, because I try start Node, but always I have problem, and I don't know how I solution this problem. So only this, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Actually, what I suggest you do is go to our Discord group. And in our Discord group, we have people that can help you start it up and hopefully overcome your problem. So
Okay.
Actually, we today we updated our troubleshooting section as well. So there are like 10 errors that we stated that were not yet in troubleshooting section. But usually the errors are not that crucial if you have the operating system needed. But yeah, let's go there, and we'll help you in the troubleshooting.
Yeah, and
It's easier
thank
when
you.
we can see what's happening on your computer.
Okay, and thank you very much. And I like this project, and thank you for hard work. And I know, thank you very much, guys, for this project.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you.
you, sir. Thank you. All for you.
Yeah, thank you.
So, does anybody else have any questions concerning liveness detection? If not, Dato, I hand the ball back to you.
Yes, so one of them, like coming from like talking about the encrypted liveness detection, right? We always talk about the this conceptual problem of privacy, right? And the godmother of it all, Dorothy, right? She was saying that basically privacy is not something that should be focused upon. The focus should be on liveness detection itself, because it's if you like really know, uh, like really knowing the person behind the wheel is much more important than whether the accounts are private or not, basically. And if you're lacking privacy for liveness detection, then you should try and do so. Basically, it's the way she formulated her doctrine around liveness detection at the time. So, question is, Shannon, um, do you think that liveness detection is more important than privacy, or vice versa?
Well, I mean, if liveness detection can provide the privacy, that would be the best, right? I mean, because as we often when we talk about privacy, we all talk about different layers of privacy, and uh, some of us are more in the open, where others are very secluded when it comes to data. So I don't know. If in general, I would say that liveness detection um, is most likely is one of the better paths towards security. But
Well,
I don't know.
let me give you a brief thought experiment, right? So there's like two social networks. The one guarantees your privacy, the other one tells you that you can interact. You can be sure that you're interacting with real people. Which one would you choose?
Mm, yeah, I guess it really depend on the use case. But if I was I mean that's a tough question, because if we're talking about, let's say, we're just joking around talking about um, nothing much, then I'd actually like to know that the person I'm talking to is the person that I want to talk to, and that person isn't somebody else trying to prove that they're the person you want to
I
talk
think
to.
it's really dependent on the lifestyle, because
Hmm.
if you have an official lifestyle where you're working like with your identity daily transparent and stuff, then it's one thing. But if you're 70% of the time you're shit posting, then I guess privacy is more important to you.
Uh, yeah, I mean, okay, let's say um, if I want to, um, let's say if I wanted to go on a dating site, I'd rather know that the person I'm talking to is a live person, not a bot. But in either case, I'd want the conversation private, right?
Yeah, my answer would be much simpler to the question of liveness against privacy. Well, there is no security without liveness anymore. And that's why I chose liveness, because security is more important than privacy itself. Well, if they can hack me, what's the reason in privacy anyway? If they can see me on the streets. So yeah, that's it.
What about you, Dato?
Well, I guess it's liveness for me. It's more important to know who you're interacting with, based in my personal opinion. But privacy, kind of, if you have both, right? If you have privacy and you have liveness detection, it totally changes the nature of both. They affect each other tremendously, and the way the game happens inside such a system between the agents, it's completely different.
Yeah, I think, if you only had one choice, would you rather have liveness detection or privacy? I'd probably have to say liveness detection. But if there's a third option with liveness detection and privacy, I'd definitely go for that.
Yeah, I may say that you can always have also a balance between the two of them, because I think that the idea someone says that privacy is not so important is when they actually care about how to use the data for training purposes, and you can have also the privacy for training, adding a concept that we have explored, that is differential privacy. But the thing is that always when you add cryptographic scheme or some techniques that helps you to prevent to keep private the data, it is also not so efficient, and sometimes it's even not practical. So for a large amount of data, like the one needed for training a neural network, sometimes these techniques don't help so much. So that's why maybe they say that don't care so much about privacy, and it's more important the live detection. But in any case, I think that I would say that also, of course, the live detection in an exclusive O, I will also choose the liveness detection. But in any case, I think that there are techniques that help you to use both in some cases. In our case, for example, this zero knowledge proof also will helps to the privacy, and without adding any how to say, heavy calculations to the neural network. So in some case, I think that there could be a balance in that.
So, Dato, when you talk about, of course, privacy and liveness detection, obviously it comes, there are different camps, different thoughts, and different levels of privacy and whatnot. When just thinking about, let's say, social media that you're talking about, as you said, if somebody is, always just, trolling, saying shit posts, they probably wouldn't want other people to know who they are or how many people they are. So, from a service provider point of view, obviously knowing that their users are live people that, if push comes to shove, can be held accountable would be something that at least the service providers would be more interested in. And obviously, those who interact there would feel more comfortable if they know that, that they're interacting with real people. So, yeah, I think coming down to my conclusion is aliveness detection is probably the key here for looking at all the issues in the various markets. A lot of it can be solved with having proof that the person you're dealing with is actually a person.
But on the other hand, Chen, transparency decreases or increases the potential of liveness detection. And there's like a lot of controversial things. For example, from a technological perspective, right? If your identity is transparent, you're opening a lot of angles of attacks. Because I know where your image is. I can try to create an artifact like you. I can make steps in various angles much freely than if your identity was private. But on the other hand, if we're talking about, cartels, or so to say, a group of people agreeing to do something bad, probably, if the identities were transparent, well, uh, basically, this happening is a very low chance, because identities are transparent and the chatter among them is known and the transactions are shown, and you know so it you make like a step into one side or the other, or you you know solidify yourself against some attacks, but you open up for others, basically.
So, might as well actually open up the floor here once again. Does anybody have any questions, comments, any thoughts on liveness versus passive, or liveness detection versus privacy? I mean, just raise your hand and open up to speak. And if not, as usual, I will start asking people. Well, since let's see, nobody is jumping up and down, raising their hand. I see PP Smoltz here. Would you be interested in commenting or asking a question? Your mic is open now, so you can ask away if interested. If not, okay. Princess Fiona, I see you here. Oh, well, Princess is typing something. And while she types, Dot, are there any other things that you'd feel that we need to consider when we're talking about active versus passive?
Yes, and it's like a dilemma that I've brought up many times before. It's the dilemma about our case and about validators being um, biometrically authenticated. You see, right now in our hypothesis, there is no differentiation between a transparent or a private validator. Like you can be a humanode, and your identity can be either private or transparent. Is really dependent on you. But it kind of, when you're giving away your identity, it kind of changes your stance in the DAO completely, and the way you're interacting with basically the network and trying to run it, whether you're like some very active governing participant, right? And the network does not recognize your transparency in any way. Like it just counts as if you're transparent, you're equal to the one who is private, and that's a constant for now. And it is an open question of whether we should consider transparency of some humanoids. Um, like the question is, would you trust more a transparent humanoid, or would you trust more a private humanoid, even though there's like some score that shows that trustworthiness and it's the same. Like you definitely trust more to the transparent one because you have his identity. And well, I'm wondering how people in our community feel about it. Who would you trust more, guys? A transparent identity or a private identity? For me, this answer is quite obvious. I don't know how you think about it. And if you can just answer this question in the chat, I'm really interested in your opinions.
Yes, if you can, please. Oh, okay. Amir, let me unmute here. And while waiting here, please feel free to type in Telegram if you would trust which would you trust more, a transparent person or a more visible person? Yeah, welcome.
I believe transparency is more important, but general public view is, I think, towards the public one.
Thank you. And let's see. Andre, are you able to speak today? You might not be. So, FR has replied, I'd say transparency. And no, this is, I guess, the level of how private the person is might be determining factor. I mean, if he's actively governing, and let's say putting up great proposals, even if people don't know who he really is, he could, have the name Razzle Dazzle or whatever, but people would recognize at least this person's proposals or his comments. So he, in a sense, he's out in front, but nobody may know who he really is. And he might be trusted even more than, let's say, somebody that is very transparent and well known, but might not have as many good ideas, or might not be working as hard, or whatever. Victor, what do you think? Victor?
Chen, sorry, didn't hear the last part.
Sorry, I was going to say, what is your thoughts on a person being transparent or private in the Humanode network? Which would you trust
Well,
more?
ideally, we allow anybody to enter, despite like privacy or transparency, and his power shouldn't depend on that. I mean, probably that's that's not much an open question, but I would trust the network of open people more, because maybe it will be misleading a bit because we know who they are, and in fact they're completely different people, just nobody knows about that. But still, if they're not hiding, meaning they are not like doing anything bad, it's like people hiding from authorities. Well, don't need to hide because you don't have to hide from authorities, right? Something like that. That's how people think all over the world, and yeah, they don't hide. Sometimes anonymous people do more than those, and much more. So they surely won't need more voting power.
No, Dado, let's say, just a hypothetical example. Let's say we have a super programmer that is extremely sensitive about his privacy
Are
and
you
identity.
referring to somebody?
Maybe, maybe not. And
Because I know a guy just like.
yeah, and his work is amazing. And would you, let's say, trust? And even if you didn't know him, would you trust his work as much as somebody who might not be as good of a programmer, but is very open about his identity?
Yeah, exactly, Sean. The thing is, the openness of identity doesn't tell anything about who the person is, in fact, and how good he is. Well, yeah, that's what I wanted to tell people right at the end of our fireside chat.
So, I mean, it all comes down to, the proof we need is that that person is a live person, and it is the same identity. I mean, he's gone through liveness detection. He's in the system. The system knows him as a node, and whatever identity he shows should, at least in my point of view, should be equal to uh, those who are more open about everything. But I don't know. I'm quite sure there are use cases in both scenarios. Looks like Dato has dropped here, but
Oh well, I have been supported by my fellow friend here.
Good.
So, yeah, Victor took care of that question. Thank you, Victor.
Well, it is about time right now. If there are any final questions, raise your hand quickly. If not, you can always ask in Telegram or Discord. And this is obviously something that we're always thinking about and constantly debating about. So any comments, feel free to write to us or type it out. And let's go for some closing remarks here. I see somebody's typing something, but let's go ahead. Victor, any final comments?
Well, it's not about whether you're moving a lot in front of the camera or not. It gives us more data sets to train the networks more. but without the different approaches to find out whether there's a real human being right now in front of the camera or not, which can be tricked a lot by movement of different artificial things. Well, that's the meaning that we have those that cannot be tricked by those artificial things, artifacts. And I want to say at the end of this meeting that it's not about a question of active and passive. It's a question of making the 3D like object analysis and the real environment around it understandable by a neural network with high accuracy. That's it.
Dato.
Well, we talked about Liveness detection history today, and my closing remarks would be about Liveness detection future, right? It's great that the mankind has created neural networks to optimize the way we calculate stuff and train stuff. And I hope that biometrics could receive something of a leap, but in the other way, Shannon. In trying to find the deterministic biometrics that are 100% perfection and in the way of telling whether a human person is alive or not, because neural networks are a probabilistic approach. There's always some percentage of failure or false acceptance, and if we devise a way to understand whether a human being is alive or not based on some really set in stone defined methods of analyzing biological data, that would change the world, that would change the way we interact with one another forever on a very large scale.
I tend to agree there, and our search for that continues.
Yeah, you could give a Nobel Prize to this person easily if you find.
Well, I'm not sure if it's in our next session, but in one of the near future sessions, we should definitely bring Sasha on the show and talk a little bit about the various modalities that can be used and being considered. And that might also bring a new angle to this. So anyway, thank you everybody for joining us for this Fireside, and I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.